Tonight on All In, American failure, the resurging coronavirus, and the negligent president who told his people to slow down testing.
Did you ask to slow it down?
If it did slow down, frankly, I think we're way ahead of ourselves.
Tonight, more Trump staffers test positive in Tulsa. Texas and Florida raise alarms about the spread in their states, and new evidence the president's pandemic response is costing him with voters. Then, what we still don't know about the botched firing of the man investigating Trump's inner circle, and what we now do know about the made-up milkshake poisoning of NYPD. When All In starts right now. Good evening from New York, I'm Chris Haves. If there was a single place where you would think that the weird reality distortion field of Donald Trump would work, it would be at a rally with his hardest of hardcore supporters. And we all thought that would be the case at his campaign kickoff rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a deep red state, over the weekend. There were people lined up outside the arena days in advance. You probably saw them on our air. The president and his team bragged that 1 million people requested tickets. We were all talking about how crushingly depressing it was that tens of thousands of people would be willing to put themselves at risk to attend this rally in the midst of a pandemic. But then, they didn't. God bless the sensible decisions made by thousands of Donald Trump followers who apparently said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take a rain check on this big potential super spreading event. The arena was not even half full. About 6,200 people attended, according to the Tulsa Fire Department, in a space that holds, 19,000. That's like a third. That's tough. The New York Times reports the president had been warned aboard Air Force One that the crowds at the arena were smaller than expected and was stunned. Once he arrived, the president reportedly yelled at aides backstage while looking at the endless rows of empty blue seats in the upper bowl of the stadium. The campaign was anticipating such a big crowd, they had built an overflow section outside and bragged about there was going to be a stage where the president and vice president were scheduled to speak, and then they tore the stage down before the president even arrived because there was no one there. And this rally, that sea of empty blue seats, is the visual representation of the fact that the president of the United States cannot BS the coronavirus away. He can't use his sales patter and his propaganda and his cutesy repetition or his Twitter handle to spin it, not even with his own most devoted supporters. For all his propaganda, most people remain worried about the pandemic. And among the people who are most vulnerable, seniors, the president is currently in polling 10 points underwater in approval. He cannot just flap his lips and pretend that we are not in the midst of a global pandemic and a once-in-a-lifetime calamity. In fact, on Saturday, just hours before the rally, we learned, guess what? 6 members of Donald Trump's own advance team on the ground in Tulsa, including Secret Service personnel, tested positive for the virus. Oh, and then get this. Today, his own campaign announced that, by the way, 2 additional staffers who attended the rally, who were there in Tulsa, also tested positive for the virus. From the very beginning, the president's approach has been that the coronavirus outbreak is not a problem to be solved, but rather a perception to be managed. The disease, to his mind, does not even really exist. The only thing that are real are the numbers it produces and the political ramifications of those numbers, which is why, back in March, as we started to see cases in the U.S., the president did not want to let passengers stuck on a cruise ship off dealing with the outbreak. They didn't want to let them off the ship. He said that he liked the numbers being where they are. Keep them on the ship, because then they're not my numbers. Then, we were laggards in testing internationally, and people thought, maybe that isn't an accident. Maybe it is because the president does not want the numbers to go up, like he said in front of the cameras. And then on Saturday night, in Tulsa, in front of 6,000 people in a mostly empty stadium, he admitted as much.
Testing is a double-edged sword. We've tested now 25 million people. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Slow the testing down, please. Testing is a double-edged sword. No, it's got just one edge. It's the edge to fight the virus. It's not 2 edges. And then he had a chance to clean that admission up today and basically admitted it all over again.
We're doing so much testing, 25 million tests. Nobody thought that.
But did you ask to slow it down?
If it did slow down, frankly, I think we're way ahead of ourselves, if you want to know the truth. We've done too good a job.
Way ahead of ourselves. He thinks testing's the problem. That if you don't test, there's no virus. It's past incompetence. It's malfeasance and negligence on an almost incomprehensible scale. There are 120,000 dead Americans. And this attitude has led to the U.S. looking like this, compared to the EU. We are going back up while everybody else has basically suppressed the virus. Everyone in the world, except for one other country, Brazil, where their president, Donald Trump's buddy, goes around saying, make Brazil great again, and telling people the virus itself is nonsense, and everyone's going to get it, and basically overseeing a Trump-like disaster there as well. So thanks to the U.S. and Brazil, the world just saw its worst day ever for new coronavirus infections, as recorded by the World Health Organization. In this country right now, we have 23 states going in the wrong direction, where cases are increasing. And one of the key measurements, and we talked about this before in the show, as it relates to the coronavirus infection, is R, right? That's the average number of people who become infected by one infectious person. And if R is under 1, right, every infected person infects less than one person, you are in good shape. If R is above 1, you are in bad shape. And right now, R is above 1 in 31 states, meaning the virus will spread quickly, meaning we are in trouble. The numbers are looking especially troubling in Texas, where 72% of intensive care units in Dallas are currently occupied. This is what the 7-day rolling average of new cases looks like in Harris County, where Houston is. That big spike on the right taking place over just the last few days. Where do you think that's going to go? Where do you think that curve's going to go? In Florida, new cases hit yet another one-day record high on Saturday. Today, the Surgeon General there quietly issued an advisory recommending everyone wear masks in public. Arizona's governor also finally reversed his position on masks last week, and they hit another record high day in hospitalizations today, along with a big increase in cases. .9% of the coronavirus within 10 minutes. I mean, no wonder no one wanted to come to this guy's Tulsa rally. For more on the president's negligence on the coronavirus, I'm joined by Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat of Illinois. And Senator, it's been fairly clear in the beginning. The president has said many times things that effectively were, I don't want to test because if we test, we'll find cases. If we find cases, I'll look bad, and I don't want to look bad. Ergo, let's not test. But it's striking that he has now essentially admitted that.
Well, of course. I mean, and, you know, this is a problem with Donald Trump for himself, right? He says without thinking, he speaks without thinking. And in this case, we see into the real Donald Trump. And frankly, he cares more about what testing numbers are than 120,000 dead Americans. That's the president of the United States. He's supposed to care about Americans who are sick and who are in danger of losing their lives, as well as those we've lost. And he's worried about how testing numbers make his politics look. It's shameful.